You know, when we think of ancient philosophers, it's easy to picture dusty books and really abstract debates. But what if one of history's greatest minds actually left us a user's manual for living a good life? Well, that's pretty much what Aristotle did. And today, we're going to unpack his blueprint for what he thought was true human happiness.
I mean, this is the ultimate question, right? It's what we're all working towards in one way or another. Is it about money? Is it about pleasure? Having a great reputation? We're all aiming for something, but Aristotle's whole deal was trying to clearly define that target so we could actually have a shot at hitting it.
And this is exactly where Aristotle steps onto the scene. See, he wasn't just interested in asking the question, he was obsessed with finding a concrete, actionable answer. For him, a good life wasn't just a matter of luck or something that happens to you. No, it was a skill, something you could learn, something you could practice. So let's see how he thought we could do it.
All right, so let's dive right in. First up, Aristotle's Guide to Happiness.
Okay, before we go anywhere, we have to define the goal. What are we aiming for? Aristotle called it true flourishing. He argued that every single thing we do is aimed at some kind of good. But what's the ultimate good? You know, the final bullseye that all our other efforts are pointing towards.
He called that ultimate goal eudaimonia. Now, it's so important we get this right. This isn't the kind of fleeting happiness you get from a good meal or watching a funny movie. Eudaimonia is way deeper. It really means human flourishing, like reaching your absolute full potential and living a life that's packed with meaning and purpose.
Sounds pretty amazing, right? But it brings up the most important question of all. If eudaimonia is the destination, how in the world do we get there? What's the path?
Aristotle's answer is just brilliantly simple. We get to that flourishing state by cultivating virtue, or what the Greeks called arete. Now, arete literally means excellence. So when Aristotle talks about a virtuous person, he doesn't mean some kind of goody two-shoes. He means someone who is excellent at the art of being human. So, how do we practice this excellence? This brings us to the real core of Aristotle's practical guide, this idea of finding the golden mean.
Okay, this one quote is packed with so much insight. Let's break it down. First, he says it's a habit of choosing. That means virtue isn't something you're just born with. Nope, it's a muscle you have to build through practice, through repetition. Second, it's a mean relative to us, which is huge. It means there's no rigid one-size-fits-all rule. It's about finding the right balance for you in any given situation.
So, instead of thinking about a straight line between good and evil, Aristotle's thinking is more like a spectrum. He argued that every single virtue is the perfect sweet spot, the golden mean, that sits right between two vices, the vice of having way too little of something and the vice of having way too much.
Courage is the absolute classic example. On one end of the spectrum, you have cowardice. That's a deficiency of courage. On the complete opposite end, you have recklessness. That's an excess of it. The virtue, real courage, lies right there in the middle. It's not about having no fear at all. It's about having the ability to look at a risk rationally and act in just the right way.
And this part is so crucial. The golden mean isn't just splitting the difference down the middle. It's not a mathematical average. I mean, what's courageous for a trained firefighter would be totally reckless for a bystander. It's all about context. It's about using your reason to find the right response for the right person at the right time.
And this whole framework applies across our entire character. Think about it. Generosity is the perfect middle ground between being stingy and just being wasteful. Friendliness is the balance between being grumpy and being a total people pleaser. You can start to see how this becomes a super practical system for navigating almost any situation life throws at you. So how do we actually do this? Well, Aristotle basically lays out a three-step process. First, you deliberate. You use your reason to really weigh the options. Second, you choose the action that you think hits that golden mean. And third, and this is the most important part, you make it a habit. You do it over and over and over again until acting virtuously just becomes second nature.
Now, for Aristotle, this whole journey to virtue isn't a solo mission. Not at all. He believed you literally cannot separate the good of an individual from the good of their society. The two are completely, totally intertwined.
Aristotle put it really bluntly here. A man who lives alone is either a beast or a god. His point is that at our core, we're social creatures. We can't really practice virtues like justice or generosity or friendship in a vacuum. We need a community. We need other people to become fully human.
And this leads to a pretty radical idea. The whole point of a government isn't just to keep order. It's to help its citizens flourish.
A good person needs a good society to practice virtue in, and, well, a good society is built by virtuous citizens. For Aristotle, achieving eudaimonia isn't a solo journey, it's a team sport.
He had this famous term for this idea, zoon politikon, the social or political animal. It's just baked into our nature. We rely on our community not just to survive, but as the actual training ground, where we learn to find the mean, where we practice virtue, and where we ultimately, hopefully, achieve eudaimonia.
So after more than 2,000 years, what's the timeless wisdom we can really take away from Aristotle's Guide to Life?
I think if there's one key takeaway, it's this. True flourishing isn't something that just happens to you by accident. It's not a final destination you just arrive at one day. It's a way of traveling. It's the sum of countless small daily choices to seek balance, to practice excellence, and to build a character worthy of a truly good life.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. In your own life, in your work, your relationships, your everyday decisions, where's the balance between too much and too little? Where can you find your golden mean? And maybe start practicing the skill of living well, starting today?